He almost didn't make it. 3 bullets, 1 severed artery, and a partner who refused to leave his side for 6 straight days. Now Detective Sam Kane is walking back through those precinct doors, and the case waiting for him is bigger than anything he's faced before. A body in the harbor, a syndicate nobody's been able to touch, and a German shepherd named Shadow who's about to prove that loyalty runs deeper than any badge. This is the return nobody saw coming. The precinct doors haven't opened yet, but Shadow is already sitting in front of them, ears up, tail still, waiting the way he's waited every morning for the last 6 weeks. Inside, the desk sergeant glances at the clock and shakes his head, because everyone in this building knows what today means. Detective Sam Kane is coming back. Not on paper. Not on some doctor's note that says fit for light duty. Back for real, back on the floor, back where he belongs, and the whole department feels the shift in the air before he even walks through the door. When the doors finally swing open, Shadow doesn't bark, doesn't jump, doesn't do any of the things a normal dog might do after weeks apart from his partner. He just walks straight to Sam's side and presses against his leg, and Sam reaches down without even looking, like his hand already knew where to go. Nobody claps. Nobody makes a big deal out of it. But every single officer in that room watches the two of them cross the floor together. And there's something in the way they move, slower than before, more careful, but still perfectly in sync. That tells you this partnership survived something it shouldn't have. Captain Reyes is waiting by her office with a folder already in her hand, and the look on her face says she wishes she had better timing, but the job doesn't wait for anyone to heal all the way. A body pulled out of the harbor at 4 this morning. Male, mid-30s, no ID on him, hands bound behind his back with wire, a single gunshot wound to the chest. Standard enough on its own, except for one detail that changes everything the second she says it out loud. The wire matches wire recovered from 2 other unsolved homicides over the past 8 months, both victims linked to a shipping company that's been quietly moving more than cargo through this city's ports. Sam takes the folder without a word, flips it open, and for a second, his jaw tightens in a way that has nothing to do with his injury. He knows this shipping company. Everyone in major crimes knows this shipping company. They've circled it for over a year, watched containers move in and out on schedules that don't match any manifest, heard whispers from informants who go quiet a week later and never talk again. Nobody's ever been able to prove a thing. And now there's a third body with the same signature, dumped in the water like it's nothing. Like whoever's running this operation doesn't think anyone's paying attention anymore. Shadow noses at the folder like he already knows something is wrong, and Sam looks down at him, then back up at Reyes, and says the only thing that makes sense. "Let's go take a look." Reyes hesitates before she waves them off, because Sam's still moving stiff, still favoring his right side, still not cleared for anything more than desk work according to the paperwork sitting in her drawer. But she's seen that look on his face before, the one that says he's not asking permission, he's telling her what's about to happen, and there's no version of this where she talks him out of it. The drive to the harbor is quiet except for the sound of Shadow shifting in the back seat, restless in a way he hasn't been in weeks. Like the dog can feel that something bigger than a routine call is waiting for them at the end of this road. When they pull up, the scene is already taped off, uniforms standing around the edges, the medical examiner crouched beside a body bag that hasn't been zipped shut yet. Sam steps out slow, one hand braced on the car door, and Shadow is out before he even finishes opening it, nose already dropping to the ground, already working. The victim's face is pale, waterlogged, but there's something familiar about it that nags at the back of Sam's mind. Something he can't quite place yet, but knows he's seen somewhere in the last year of case files that never went anywhere. The wire around the wrists is thin, industrial grade, the kind you'd find in a shipping yard rather than a hardware store. And when Sam kneels down carefully beside the body, wincing at the pull in his side, he notices something the responding officers missed. A faint mark on the man's forearm, half hidden by the swelling, that looks less like an injury and more like a tattoo, partially burned off. Deliberately, like someone wanted it erased before the body ever hit the water. Shadow noses closer, sniffs once at the arm, and then sits, hard and sudden, the way he only does when he's found something that matters. Sam looks at his partner, then back at the mark, and for the first time since he walked through those precinct doors this morning, he feels the old instinct kick back in, sharp and certain. This isn't just another body. This is the first real crack in a case that's been closed to them for over a year, and somehow on his very first day back, Shadow just found it. Back at the precinct, The burned tattoo mark is already up on the screen in the conference room, blown up as large as the resolution allows. And 3 different detectives are leaning in, trying to make sense of what's left of it. Sam stands at the head of the table with his arms crossed, weight shifted onto his good side, and Shadow lies at his feet with his head resting on his paws, eyes moving from face to face like he's following the conversation better than half the people in the room. What's left of the mark is a curved shape. Maybe part of a letter, maybe part of a symbol, burned deep enough that the medical examiner confirms it was done recently, likely within the last 48 hours, likely with something as simple as a lighter and a steady hand. That detail alone tells Sam more than anyone in the room seems to realize. Whoever did this wasn't panicking. Whoever did this took their time, made sure the job was clean, made sure nothing traced back to wherever this man came from. Reyes walks in halfway through the debrief with 2 coffees, hands one to Sam without asking if he wants it, and sets a second folder down on the table that makes the room go quiet the moment she opens it. Facial recognition finally got a partial hit on the victim, cross-referenced against an old immigration database that almost never gets pulled unless someone specifically requests it. His name was Marcus Voss. 20 of the years he spent in this country tied up with a customs brokerage firm that shut its doors 18 months ago under investigation for smuggling. An investigation that went nowhere because every witness who agreed to talk either recanted or disappeared before trial. Sam feels something cold settle in his chest because he remembers that case. Remembers sitting in on 2 of those interviews himself before the whole thing collapsed. Remembers the exact feeling of watching a solid lead evaporate because someone higher up the chain made sure it did. Marcus Voss wasn't just some low-level courier who got unlucky. He was a name that used to matter, a name that vanished from every file the second the investigation folded. And now he's turned up dead in the harbor with his hands bound and a tattoo burned off his arm like somebody wanted to erase every trace of what he used to be part of. Shadow lifts his head off his paws and lets out a low sound, not quite a growl, more like he's picking up on the tension in the room before anyone says another word. Sam kneels down, ignoring the pull in his side that makes him suck in a breath through his teeth, and rests a hand on Shadow's neck, steadying them both. The room falls into that particular kind of silence that happens when everyone realizes the case just got bigger than the 4 walls they're standing in. Bigger than a single body, bigger than anything they can close out with a routine arrest and a clean report. Reyes says what everyone's thinking before Sam has to. If Voss was part of that old smuggling operation, and somebody just went to the trouble of erasing his identity and dumping him in the harbor, that means the operation never actually stopped. It just went quiet, went patient, and now something has spooked whoever's running it enough to start cleaning house. Sam asks the obvious question, the one that matters most. Who else on that old list is still alive and still findable? The answer comes back fast because someone already pulled the file the second Voss's name came through, and it isn't good. Of the 6 original persons of interest from that failed investigation, 2 are confirmed dead of what were ruled natural causes at the time. 1 moved out of state and stopped answering calls 2 years ago. 1 is currently serving time on an unrelated charge. And the last 2 are still local, still working ordinary jobs, still completely unaware that their names might be sitting on a list somewhere waiting to be crossed off. Sam doesn't wait for Reyes to assign it. He's already moving toward the door, Shadow rising and falling into step beside him without needing to be told. And the 2 of them cross the bullpen with the kind of urgency that makes every officer they pass stop what they're doing and watch them go. The first name on the list is a woman named Elena Cho, 41 years old, working a quiet desk job at a freight logistics company on the other side of the city, the kind of ordinary life that looks like it's been built specifically to stay off anyone's radar. When Sam and Shadow arrive at her office building, the receptionist tells them Elena left early, said she wasn't feeling well, and something about the way the receptionist says it, a little too fast, a little too rehearsed, makes the hair on the back of Sam's neck stand up. Shadow feels it too. He's already moving toward the stairwell before Sam gives the command, nose low, and Sam follows him down 2 flights and out through a side exit that most employees don't even know exists. The kind of exit you'd only use if you didn't want to be seen leaving. In the parking lot behind the building, Shadow stops dead at the base of a concrete stairwell, sits hard, and stares up at a fire escape landing where a single dark stain marks the metal grating. Still wet? Still fresh enough that it hasn't dried in the afternoon sun. Sam's stomach drops. He calls it in immediately, requests backup and a forensics team. And while they wait, he crouches beside Shadow and follows the dog's line of sight down an alley that runs behind the building. Narrow and shadowed, lined with dumpsters and loading pallets. Shadow's whole body goes rigid, a stillness that Sam has learned over the years to trust more than almost anything else in his life. And then the dog starts forward at a controlled trot, nose to the ground, weaving between the pallets with total focus. Sam draws his weapon without thinking about it, old instinct overriding the ache in his side, and follows close behind, calling out for Elena Cho's name into the empty alley and getting nothing back but the distant hum of traffic from the street beyond. They find her 40 yards down, slumped against the wall behind a stack of broken shipping crates, alive but barely conscious. A gash across her forehead, and both wrists bound with the same thin industrial wire they pulled off Marcus Voss's body that morning. Sam drops to his knees beside her, pressing 2 fingers to her throat, finding a pulse that's weak but steady, and radios for an ambulance while Shadow presses in close against her side, whining low, refusing to move even when the paramedics arrive and start working around him. In the ambulance, once Elena's stable enough to speak, she manages only a handful of words before the sedation pulls her under, but they're enough to change the entire shape of the investigation. She says a name. Not a full name, just a first name, spoken so quietly Sam has to lean in to catch it over the sound of the siren. Dominic. She says it like it terrifies her, like the syllables themselves cost her something to get out. And then her eyes close and she's gone under, leaving Sam kneeling in the back of that ambulance with a single word that might be the key to everything, or might lead nowhere at all. Back at the precinct that evening, exhausted in a way that has nothing to do with his still healing body, and everything to do with the weight of what today has uncovered, Sam runs the name through every database available to him and comes up with nothing that fits cleanly. No one named Dominic connected to the shipping company. No one named Dominic in the old case files. It's either an alias, a nickname, or a name buried so deep in whatever this operation is that it's never once surfaced on paper. Shadow sits beside his chair, head resting against Sam's knee, and Sam runs a hand absently over his fur while he stares at the blinking cursor on his screen, the empty search results mocking him. Reyes stops by his desk on her way out, tells him to go home, get some rest, that this isn't going anywhere tonight and he's still supposed to be on light duty regardless of what he decided this morning. Sam nods, agrees, says all the right things. But the second she's gone, he pulls up one more file, an old one, buried near the bottom of the failed smuggling investigation from 18 months ago. A file he remembers skimming once and setting aside because it didn't seem relevant at the time. It's a shipping manifest, water-damaged, partially illegible, recovered from a raid that never led anywhere. And near the bottom, in ink so faded he almost misses it entirely, there's a signature. A single first name, scrawled fast, careless. The kind of signature someone leaves when they think no one will ever bother reading that far down the page. Dominic. Sam sits back slowly in his chair, feeling the weight of it settle over him, and Shadow lifts his head off his knee like he can sense the shift in his partner's breathing. Whatever this operation is, whoever Dominic really is, he's been sitting right there in the department's own files for over a year, waiting, patient, invisible, while 3 people ended up dead or nearly dead, trying to keep his name buried. And now, on Sam's very first day back on the job, that name is finally starting to surface, and something tells him this is only the beginning of how far down this goes. Sam doesn't sleep that night. Not really, not in any way that counts. He lies on the couch because the bed still feels wrong on his bad side, staring at the ceiling with the faded manifest sitting on the coffee table where he left it. That single scrawled name burning itself into the back of his mind every time he closes his eyes. Shadow doesn't settle either. He paces the length of the living room twice, circles once by the door like he's waiting for someone who isn't coming, and finally gives up and drops down beside the couch with a heavy sigh, close enough that Sam can feel the rise and fall of his breathing in the dark. By 5 a.m, Sam gives up pretending rest is going to happen and gets up, makes coffee he barely tastes, and is back at the precinct before most of the day shift has even clocked in. Reyes finds him there an hour later, unsurprised in the way that only comes from knowing someone too well for too long. And instead of sending him home again, she just pulls up a chair, because she recognizes the look on his face and knows there's no point fighting it anymore. Together, they dig into everything they can find on the name Dominic, cross-referencing it against every shipping manifest, every customs record, every old surveillance photo from the failed investigation 18 months ago, and slowly a picture starts to take shape. Blurry at first, then sharper with every file they open. Dominic isn't a last name, and he isn't some low-level courier like Marcus Voss was. Buried in an old surveillance report that nobody ever followed up on, there's a mention of a man who went by Dominic acting as a fixer for the shipping company, the person who arranged meetings, moved money, made problems disappear when they got too big to ignore quietly. No last name on file. No clear photograph, just a grainy still from a traffic camera near the port showing a man in a dark coat. Face turned mostly away, tall, broad-shouldered, unremarkable in every way except for the fact that he's standing exactly where he shouldn't be at exactly the time 3 different shipments were later found to be missing manifested cargo. Sam stares at that photo for a long time, and Shadow, sitting beside his chair, lets out a low huff like even he's frustrated by how little there is to work with. The one thing they do have is a location. The traffic camera that caught the image is mounted outside a warehouse complex on the eastern edge of the port, a property registered under 3 different shell companies that all trace back, after enough digging, to the same shuttered brokerage firm Marcus Voss used to work for. It's not proof of anything, not enough for a warrant on its own, but it's the first real thread they've had since this whole thing started. And Sam feels that old familiar pull in his chest, the one that used to get him into trouble before he learned to at least pretend to wait for backup. Reyes reads the look on his face perfectly and tells him, flatly, that they are not driving out to that warehouse alone. Not today. Not with him barely cleared for desk duty and a killer on the loose who's already put 2 people in the hospital and 1 in the morgue. Sam agrees, mostly because he knows arguing won't get him anywhere. And they spend the next 2 hours building a case for surveillance instead. Enough justification to get a patrol unit stationed nearby to watch the property and log who comes and goes without tipping anyone off that they're being watched. It's while they're finalizing that request that a call comes through that changes the shape of everything. Elena Cho is awake. She's stable, she's talking, and she's asking specifically for the detective who found her in that alley. Sam is out the door before Reyes finishes relaying the message. Shadow already ahead of him, tail low but ears forward, moving with the kind of focus that tells Sam his partner understands exactly how much this conversation might matter. At the hospital, Elena looks small in the bed, a bandage wrapped around her forehead, one wrist still marked from the wire that bound it, but her eyes are alert, sharp even, and the moment Sam walks in, she asks if the dog can come closer. Like something about Shadow's presence steadies her in a way nothing else in that sterile room can. Sam lets Shadow rest his head gently on the edge of the bed, and Elena's hand drifts down to rest on his fur while she talks, her voice quiet but steady, like she's been rehearsing this in her head since the moment she woke up. She tells Sam that 18 months ago, when the smuggling investigation was still active, she was the one who first flagged the discrepancies in the shipping manifests. Small things at first, weights that didn't match, containers logged twice under different reference numbers. She brought it to her supervisor, who brought it up the chain, and within 2 weeks she was pulled off the account entirely and told to stop asking questions, no explanation given. She assumed at the time it was corporate politics, someone protecting a client relationship.